Welcome to the Zachrilege cast. Cory Johnston. So yeah, if I do this twice in a week, I actually get the intro correct. So thanks for being patient, my fine listeners, watchers, whatever.
Yeah, it's good to get some practice in. It's not you haven't done this enough.
Yeah, I've had hiatuses, and we can talk about that because you've done that yourself.
Yes.
So you were last on episode 143, which probably was like 2-3 years ago.
Almost 100 episodes ago, it looks like.
The news is kind of sparse since then, so we'll have to really, pad to get through the whole episode.
But nothing's happened. It's
just to let people know. So it's Drafty Kilt, local Scotch ale is what I'm drinking this evening. This is what the color of all my beers, as the same color as my heart and possibly my liver. So
I'm just drinking water.
Canadian water too, right? The good stuff.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's out of a bottle, so.
A bottle. So last time we talked, you had a couple of shows going. You might have had more, but these are the two I'm aware of. So you were doing Brainstorm and Hardcore Skeptic.
Yeah.
So since then, what's happened with those shows?
They faded away. I miss doing shows with the Brainstorm crew, but it just after a year and a half of not doing anything with those shows, and of course financial issues, I couldn't afford to be paying for the website and the hosting services and everything that I was paying for at the time, so they just ended up going away.
But a true podcaster can never retire. So
that's right.
What made you decide to get your new show going, and what's up with the mind of the Skeptical Leftist?
Well, I guess I was desperate to start podcasting again. That's why I started again. So that's where the show started. And I still haven't entirely found my spot for it. I want it to be a progressive left-wing politics skeptical show. Obviously, mind of a skeptical leftist. But I'm still finding that voice for it.
Well, I mean, I'm 5 years in and still trying to figure out my own voice. So,
yeah,
you sometimes will paint yourself into a corner, and I guess you're going really niche with like a skeptical leftist, but it is true that you say the term skeptic, and I feel like a few years ago we would have been all like thumbs up, cool. And now we're like, oh, wait a second. Does that mean you don't believe in vaccines, or you think coronavirus is a hoax, but you'll get you get the vaccine anyway if you're a politician, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's very poisoned, I guess you could say is the term. Nobody, too many people have taken that skeptical label, and even years ago we were saying like too many people are using this as an identity and not a methodology. And it's just gotten worse.
Yeah, it stopped meaning something, but I think that's a good thing. Like at this point in my life, if someone says they're a Christian, I'm going to need to ask some follow-up questions. And I think the same thing is with being a skeptic, because you can be skeptical about stuff that has pretty much been proven, however sure proven means. I don't know if that's 99.9%, like proven, like the sun comes up every day kind of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. But I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because you had one of my favorite podcasters on recently, Robert Evans. So what was it like to get in touch with him and set it up? Because he seemed like a pretty relaxed guy on the show. Seemed like he was pretty much ready for anything.
Yeah, I sent him a message on Twitter, actually, because when I followed him, he followed me back.
Nice.
So then so someday I'm going to use this. And I sent him a message. I don't know if his DMs are open, but I sent him a message, and it took him a few days to to get back to me. I wasn't sure if he was going to. So then I resent him another message and said, hey, I don't want to annoy you or bother you, but do you actually want to come on my show sometime? And yeah, he just said, sure. So then it was just a matter of setting up the date.
Yeah, I think I mentioned him, and I think I've done some of his shows as like my live read show of the week, like Behind the Bastards and Worst Year Ever. Well, he's got so many shows. It's weird though that like all these people started at Cracked, which I always thought was like a Mad. What was the magazine?
Well, yeah.
Mad Magazine kind of spinoff that became like kind of these sort of angry but still telling jokes kind of people on the left kind of podcasts, which is like, okay, that's the direction they took, which is interesting.
Yeah. It's I guess they were probably all pretty, liberal or lefty at that time. And, it's good to see them making popular shows now too.
Well, yeah, that's another thing that I think will probably come up a lot in the interviews you do, and sometimes in the interviews I do. Is, gosh, if we were just on the opposite side, we'd be way more popular. We might have Koch brothers money, or some Christian fundamentalist would be like, cool, and we could still say we're atheists, even though we're probably not. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweet. It's got to be a few weeks ago now, but they said, I can't believe how much money there is in anti-racism. And I was just blown away, like that anybody could possibly think you're like, anti-racists aren't making money. Nobody's rich from this. You might sell a book. Like some people have sold books, but most of those people that are writing books are, they also have full-time jobs as professors or something. They're not living off the high hog, right?
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that Deborah said I was too handsome to be Ben Shapiro. Is that a good comparison? I don't know, but
well, I mean, that sounds positive to me, so I'm gonna say that's positive.
You just think of people like Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin, and actually someone who's kind of on that political side too, but Adam Carolla used to have this lying or stupid thing, like either you're dumb or you're clearly lying. And it always seems like it's like the argument you're making, you can't actually believe them. You just know the people you're listening to are going to believe them. And it becomes this weird performative culture war game. Do you really like playing that kind of stuff, like the culture war stuff, like this guy who had a picture taken of him wearing a dress and that becomes a thing. And, Elliot Page is trans and that becomes it's more of a culture war thing than acknowledge somebody's life choices kind of thing. But I don't know, just wondering.
Yeah. I mean, I do follow a lot of this stuff, but not in the way that I guess not in the way I used to. How does somebody like Ben Shapiro think that I'm actually kind of blown away by Ben Shapiro being so judgmental of the quote unquote masculinity of somebody, like that he's the arbiter of masculinity in some way. I don't get it, but somehow it sells.
I feel like it's like this, a generation and a half ago, things used to be a certain way, and that's the way they are. And like things are written in stone. And it's a lot of times when someone says like Western values, they're really talking about like Christianity. And when you really look at it, it's like, this isn't good for anybody. Like,
no, that's right.
The patriarchy is not really good. Like you think, it's good for guys. Like, no,
it hurts everybody
more than not. But it's it's like our current capitalist system. We're like, woohoo! We're like rooting for, some 85-year-old who's, working a delivery job because they don't have any money. It's like, that's not good, but it's like, rooting for you. Everybody should wear dresses. Yes, I just haven't find something that works in my color. So I don't know.
They got to be more comfortable than jeans, I swear.
Well, when you're doing a video, they only see you from here up, so you're pretty clear.
Geez.
I'm always wearing pajama pants, so.
Is that right?
Well,
I always still wear jeans. I got to be
I
thinking
have
more creatively about this.
for working from home, but for just regular life, exactly. But do you still, you like to do interviews, and for a while I was going, what happened to interviews? People don't seem to do them anymore, even though it's in theory the easiest thing to do. It's obviously not. But do you still approach it as like you have some dream people that you're looking up to, or you're really just like, hey, I want to examine certain topics, and this person's the best person to talk to about it?
Both.
Well, yeah. So you can answer your own question.
Yeah. I definitely with somebody like Robert Evans, I love his shows. I admire his work, and I thought this is somebody I need to talk to. The episode I released just today was with Nora Loretto. She's a journalist and activist here in Canada, and I've been wanting to interview her ever since I was doing Brainstorm. So there are still those people that I'm like, okay, I have to like interview them. But also I want to be able to tackle, like I've got an upcoming interview. I'm going to be talking about the difference between anarcho-communism and anarcho-capitalism, and why anarcho-capitalism isn't anarchism. So that, and I think I've got a guest for that show, and I think that that'll be a good resource for that topic.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into the leftist versus liberal kind of discussion. But you just find it is a natural thing for someone who does podcasts, who probably started in like the atheist community, that they kind of have to space out a little bit. Like, it does seem like after a while, it's hard to just do a show about religion. Or you could be like the Puzzle and the Thunderstorm people and just do 22 podcasts a week. That's another possibility. But does it seem like it's just has to get into like social justice? It's just too pretty. You have to like tackle it at some point. It's not pretty, of course, but
of course, yeah. No, but it's
shiny.
It is an important topic that is culturally relevant, and that requires some thought and depth. And so, I mean, it makes sense for somebody who likes to be critical thinking, and like any who doesn't want to stick to one little topic, to get into it, right?
Well, what if you just want to like make stuff up and like hate on people? Can you do that? Because I don't know if anyone does that.
I couldn't. But
you couldn't. Yeah, you like doing research. You like getting into it. You like actually like learning things and knowing things.
I prefer the things I believe to be true, rather than just convenient.
True, yeah. But do you often feel like when you've kind of followed people in the atheist community, are you just doing like a countdown for them to do something dumb or to join the anti-woke crowd? Or, you mentioned you're on Atheist Talk. Atheist Talk, is that how it goes? And you kind of mentioned Seth Andrews, who was like, for a while, I was listening to him every week. And I kind of gave up on his show just because there are a lot of shows out there. And then all of a sudden he was very like anti-social justice and said it was a religion. It's like, so you talk against religion forever, then you have to like create new religions to talk against, because it gets boring, I guess, talking about Christianity, right?
Yeah.
Every week. Yeah.
No, honestly, it's not just atheist community. I actively worry that anybody that I admire is going to do something shitty tomorrow. I was just thinking how nice it is that so far Robert Evans hasn't done anything shitty that other people, that is suddenly discovered.
I know. I was thinking like, yeah, when I first started doing this show, I was like, oh, I can never have these people on, and they're just so big. But of course, it's nice being in that smaller group, because anybody who's like someone wants to talk to them, they're like, sure. Even Robert Evans, who does shows that I'm sure hundreds of thousands of people listen to, it's nice that he's still open. But there was a time where I felt like I had a big list of people I admire, and now I'm very cautious. In a way, I miss just going in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but now I kind of prefer that I kind of like, let me, be a little cautious. Is it just seem better, even though it's not always feels better, to not be totally sure of yourself about how you feel about a person or a subject or any kind of discussion going on?
Yeah, I guess, like you say, that uncertainty, it doesn't feel good, but it's probably better not to put all your eggs in the basket of, people that you admire.
True. And I just noticed you had like a Rage Against the Machine. I don't know if it's a poster behind you.
Yeah, that's my.
I just realized that like so many right-wing people, like Paul Ryan, are really into Rage Against the Machine, where their message is obviously not anything close to there. They just like the pretty music aspect of it. I don't know, but it's
I saw a joke that somebody on Twitter, I think it was, they were saying, "Oh, the machine they thought we were raging against was their mom." I'm not gonna do what you told me, Mom.
That must be it.
I think it's got to be. I honestly, even when I was a conservative, I still did love Rage Against the Machine. I never really understood the lyrics. I knew they were angry, but I didn't know why. And I thought, whatever. They're just talking about this and that and the other thing, and they're angry. And now I'm like so glad that I got into them when I did, because I still have them play in my playlist regularly.
So you say we're conservative? I always hear people say that you get more conservative as you're older, and I guess I'm more selective about that. Like maybe about certain things, but in terms of politics, I feel like I'm getting more on the left. We'll find out soon, because part of the reason I wanted to have you on was like, let's do a little test to see how
for sure
liberal I am. But what like helped you kind of become more educated and change your mind, which is okay?
I think I've talked about this a number of times before. Sorry, my partner was just getting me a beer.
See? There you go.
Very nice of her.
That's the spirit.
Not anything anybody would approve of.
Oh my God, is that the Clamato beer? Oh wow.
They're delicious.
Okay.
But
all
anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a first. No one's ever had one of those on this show, that's for sure.
No.
So congrats and cheers, of course.
Of course. Yes. Like I say, I think I've talked about it before, but when I was a climate change denier, I got into a huge argument with a friend of mine. And then I went on a deep research dive because I wanted to prove him wrong, I wanted to prove climate change was a hoax. But every good source that I came across said, hey, climate change is real, and here's all the evidence for it. So I was like, well, what am I doing? I'm wrong about this. I could be wrong about all this other stuff. And I quickly moved from conservative to libertarian to kind of an anarcho-centrist of types, of because I always believed in like a kind of a independent person who didn't need any heroes or leaders, no rulers. I always hated the monarchy, stuff like that. And but then when I started, learning more about socialism and more about left-wing politics, then and the more I got into social justice, the more I pulled left and left and left, and now I guess I'm an anarcho-communist.
Okay, so maybe we could break that down. What is the anarcho part? That seems like there's an independent aspect to it, but I bet there's more to it. What's Or maybe just the whole term anarcho-communist.
Yeah, I mean,
what does it mean to you?
Also known as a libertarian socialist. So essentially, it's an elimination of the state because that's a tool for private capital and private property, and that's their interest. The interest of the state is to protect power and those who already have it. And communism is a distribution of resources and ownership among the people of a community or a civilization, society. So when you have a state, in my opinion, when you have a state, that will always funnel the power and wealth into the hands of a few people, and therefore will actually stop you from having true communism, where everybody is participating to the best of their ability and getting everything that they need. I guess that's a simple breakdown of it.
Well, obviously we have an example of like communist nations, but do we have something in terms of like a non-state group of people that's existed? Is that almost like a commune in a way?
Yeah, like a commune, like any commune where people live together and they all just do their part. Like, yeah, sure, you might have an organizational structure where everybody kind of is assigned certain tasks based on the day or whatever, or rotating system. But yeah, also, I guess, if you've listened to the podcast Women's War by Robert Evans, Rojava was, at least last time I was keeping track of it, an anarcho-feminist style society where they didn't really have a particular leader, and there wasn't exactly a state. They were just a rotating system of people doing the jobs that they needed to do to keep their society going and to make sure everybody was taken care of.
Okay, yeah, it seems like every kind of anarcho type group that I've heard of ends up being like kind of a cult around a certain leader.
Yeah, I mean,
who's basically just directing people for his own pleasure. Like that show about the guy in Oregon where they started that like town, and India. I can't remember what that was, but that was in the 80s, and it was like, man, I can't believe I've never heard of that. But things like that.
Yeah, I think it's like any thing. The reason that a lot of people I find end up in cults is because they're alienated from their society that they're already in, right? If you set up your society in a way where everybody is taken care of, then you don't really seem to have these same alienation issues. I see in the chat there, Jeannie asked the question, how does that scale up globally? And there's a lot of answers to that question too. Like, and I'm not the authority. There is no authority on anarchism, right? So, in my opinion, you would have to more or less eliminate like the idea of these giant countries and work more on a small scale community trade systems. And I mean, I've shot this idea around a bit myself, where you could have temporary elected officials that could represent the interests of your community in a larger community, like a representative democracy almost, but those people would be recallable at any moment if they did anything that their community would disagree with. But also, it would be, you could never do it for too long, or there's a number of ways to look at it.
And see, Jeannie, you got a guest who's reading the questions and actually answering them. That's not the thing I usually do. I'm all confused.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to pretend that I have all the answers, and I don't think anybody does, because we haven't had during our recorded history anarcho-communist societies that have succeeded on the long term. It's hard to even have like a socialist state when somebody like the United States tends to assassinate leaders or impose trade embargoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That is that's definitely part of it. So the libertarian socialist, that almost seems like it doesn't make sense. Like delicious IPA. That's an inside joke. But like libertarian almost always to me has seemed like that's a very selfish way. Like I have mine, although I think in the way you're thinking of it, it's more of like I have mine, but I can trade things with you and we can interact, but I want to have my own space and my own.
Yeah, originally libertarian was a left-wing term. It was the same as an anarchist, essentially. But at one point, somewhere along the line, it got co-opted by the right, and they've turned it into this anarcho-capitalism where, I got mine, so fuck anybody else, and I'll just hire guards to keep mine and shoot anybody who tries to take it, kind of thing. So in an anarcho-capitalist society, they want to eliminate the state as much as I do, but what they don't want to eliminate is private property. So anybody who owns gets to continue owning, even if they're not using it. And that means that they can hire, an army to protect it.
Yeah, hire their own like personal doctor. I mean, America can be like that. I mean, we have like socialism for the rich and then capitalism for the poor. Like I was thinking in terms of how I've gotten, I guess, radicalized in a way is like listening to a podcast for the football team I follow, and they're talking about that team getting money to like upgrade their stadium from the state. And I'm like, well, that's socialism, the thing that people say they hate, but rich sports teams in cities get these deals all the time. Oh boy, Deborah's going to have something going on.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Deborah,
something.
Are you trying to hijack my show? Because I'm trying to totally go off the rails on my own. You don't have to help me. I was just talking like in terms of there seems to be socialism's okay for like the rich. It's like, oh, the banks can fail, but if an individual defaults on their mortgage, then they can go broke and owe money for the rest of their lives and maybe go to prison. And that is kind of where we are in America. Like we had this idea of what America is versus what it could be, or, what it is versus what we think it should be. But I was wondering, like, I have been a big fan of like following, part of Behind the Bastards talks about like kind of the rise of the right in America and like Phyllis Schlafly and leading to Ronald Reagan and how it took from like the 50s, like John Birch Society to like the 80s with Reagan to now. And they're kind of like, they got the country by the, what's. How can we in America kind of build something like that, but on the left where we kind of get it involved in like every part of the community where such a large percentage of the community, instead of thinking abortion is terrible and never okay, but for like, hey, everybody should have healthcare, like somehow getting that, like creating. Is there a way to do that? And do we have to like plan for something that's going to possibly happen in 50, 60 years? We may not have that long, but I mean, something like thinking long-term of building a community that is more on the liberal side, leftist, progressive.
Yeah.
Whatever label you prefer, it's fine. But
yeah, I mean, I get that's one of those things too. There's a lot of people doing good organizing, right? But you have people who think that we need to have kind of a revolution and you have people who are more into incremental type changes through legislative power. I'm not entirely sure what the right way is to fix the world is, but it is troubling, like, because centrist politicians will, and I just again, not to plug my own shit too much, but this episode
That's
I
why
just
you're
released
here.
today, yeah, I guess this episode I just released today with Nora Loretto, she talks about how in Canada we have the Liberals and we have the Conservatives as our two main parties, and we have the NDP, or New Democratic Party, as kind of a third alternative. And
is that possible? More than two parties? Uh-oh.
It's not so much possible the way we have it now, actually.
Okay.
You ultimately end
idea.
up, yeah, it is a good idea, but you ultimately end up with one of those two main parties always winning. And because the way she explained it is that the centrist party, the Liberals, they hate the left. Like, they absolutely cannot deal with us because we take power from the people that they're actually serving. And not to be conspiratorial about it, but the Liberal Party here and the Democrats in the United States tend to serve the interests of big business, and they're very capitalistic. They're very like profit driven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so sure, they hate the right. They got a boogeyman on the right that they can always use as an enemy, as a villain that they can prop up and say, hey, look how scary they are. But they kind of can't do that with the left. They have to ignore us while also like kind of shutting us down in a sense without paying attention. Because
I don't know, they do try to shut people like AOC down, it seems. Like in the US, like people asking for Medicare for all is the reason why all these Democrats lost. I'm like, come here, or like why the Democratic organization always seems to fail on the local level.
Yeah.
And the Republicans like Georgia voted for Biden, but Georgia is super red when it comes to their legislature.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Also, while ignoring the fact that the result was the only reason Georgia went blue was because of the grassroots left. They
didn't get enough attention.
Like, Biden on his own would never have won Georgia. Biden with Stacey Abrams.
There are a few like big names, like people know Stacey Abrams, but yeah, the smaller like local organizers don't get any attention.
Yeah,
and it always seems like sometimes the least nuanced voices tend to get the attention, which is unfortunate. It is weird. I don't know. Yeah, the focus of politics now in America is on my state, Georgia. I actually got an absentee ballot, and I was a little confused because usually we only, we have two senators in our state, and you vote for one of them. We actually had both of them on the ballot, which made me happy because I got to vote against the two terrible Trump bootlickers profiting off COVID people.
Right. Yeah.
It's 50-50. It's actually like more 52-48. I think it's going to be hard to win both of those. It is just amazing how like the situation has skewed so far that the right always seems to have like home field advantage in America. And I'm just like, there's got to be a way to, maybe it is just do a little Googling and find the local people who are working and try to prop them up and try to help them out. Because in a way, like, when Obama won, everybody was like, cool, got a black guy in charge. Now we're fine. And he didn't really do much. Not that he had much help, but he really didn't want to shake the tree that much when his biggest accomplishment was passing a right-wing healthcare plan that barely passed, and they keep trying to destroy, even though it's pretty right-wing.
Yeah,
and making sure
I can tell you've been listening to Robert Evans' podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I've actually stopped focusing so much on the socialist aspect of things, because I was for a long time listening to like really socialist, like left-wing podcasts, and occasionally they would say things that I would be like, oh, geez, I really wish you hadn't said that, because now you're saying like, oh, we need the state, and Stalin wasn't such a bad guy. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes, like I can't listen to you anymore. But Robert Evans and Cody and Katie, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would have felt really bad if I got that wrong.
All the hosts. Yeah.
They have been consistent about their anti-authoritarian stuff, so that they're really good voices for that.
I'm pretty sure there was like a video like Biden sucks, but we need to vote for him, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how much he sucks, but we need to vote for him.
But absolutely,
I hope we've gotten past the like. That's the thing about having a president in the U.S. I mean, you have a prime minister, maybe that lessens it somewhat, but it becomes this weird cult of personality, and it's like, do we need this? Because we're putting this person on a pedestal, and then somehow we put the whole Donald Trump thing. It's like he's such a just thoroughly awful person, and just watching all these videos of people crying about him, and the things they attribute to him are not him at all. And it's just, we create these heroes. It's kind of like when people are religious, they look up to God, they look up to their pastor as this almost higher up person. And I don't think it's tough, because the kind of person running for president is never the person you want really to be president.
Yeah.
You don't want him in charge. You want someone with like a low ego and someone who's going to do the right thing. And that's just not, I don't know if that's possible, honestly.
You don't want, what is it? Anybody who wants to be president is a bad choice for president.
Well, the current guy in the office, I don't know if he wanted to be president. He just was like, hey, I'm going to make money since I owe $1 billion to like Russian banks. Oh, let me do this.
Yeah. Yeah. More and more stuff is like, oh, I can't remember what I was listening to, but there was something where they really brought a lot of that up where like, yeah, when he comes out of office, he's got a lot of shit to deal with. Like, I'm actually hoping that karma's going to get that guy.
Well, the way we never go after rich people, it's like people are going, oh, Mueller's going to get him. It's like, no, Mueller really never went after him. And it seemed like he went easy on him. It just seems like every time has been an opportunity, there've been hundreds of times there've been opportunity to just take this guy down, make him nothing. And every time people have enabled him. Mm-hmm. And it's just, this is what we get from saying, ooh, rich person. I mean, we'll get to, your gigs, but, I had an Uber driver once who was like, but he's a good businessman. And it's like, well, how do you know that he's a good businessman? Because he says he's a good businessman.
I don't.
It doesn't represent all drivers.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Exactly.
I don't talk politics very much with my passengers. I got in trouble for it once. So
seems like it's okay if you're right wing or playing like Christian music, but I don't know. That's my unconscious bias. But what is it like for you? Because you're doing these kind of gig jobs. You're doing like Uber type stuff. How is that? Because it seems like it's a good time for that sort of job, but maybe it's never a good time for that job. Like any job that involves tips.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's not a lot of tipping. I've noticed, because I do a lot of food delivery, more so than I do with passengers, because I guess people aren't going out as much, maybe.
Yeah, I haven't. I used to do Lyft, and I would probably go once or twice a month, and now it's been like a year since I've used it, because like I get into a stranger's car, like even invite like a friend over to my house. What? Who does that? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, as far as the job goes, I love driving around listening to podcasts all day. Mm-hmm. But yeah, to make good money, you have to put in 12, 14 hours a day at least. And even then you're not making as much as I was making in the oil field, working half as hard. So
what happened with that? Is it just the economy's downturn?
well,
Or?
it started off like that, but uh, in early 2019, I think March 2019, my company got bought out by a much smaller company. Like they didn't get bought out. Our facilities, our set of facilities in Saskatchewan got bought out by a much smaller company. And as a result, they couldn't afford as many staff. And so they laid off a whole bunch of people, shuffled people around. Basically, they doubled the workload that everybody had, and then cut our overtime and cut our benefits and, cut any extras that they could. And so then COVID happened. We got laid off in March of this year. And then I did go back in July, but in September, they told me that they were going to move me to another facility again, and my schedule was going to be changed. So I said, you know what? Like, this new schedule doesn't work for me. I need this schedule. I will try and come up with a new schedule that works for me and for everybody else. I want everybody to have the weekends off that they need off, and be able to make the plans that they make. And apparently, no matter what I did, it wasn't something that fit for everybody. And they all had veto power and I didn't. So I said, okay, well, I guess I resign. That'll be that.
Yeah, you do the best you can to kind of work with the system, but clearly it wasn't happening. You said you also do a podcast about local politics. So how are politics in your area, region?
Very conservative.
Okay.
Yeah. In our last federal election, here, as opposed to down there, red is liberals, blue is conservatives.
So confused. Yeah. So me wearing a red shirt. Perfect. Nice.
Yeah, there you go.
Got lucky. Mm-hmm.
So the Liberal Party won, but my province, Saskatchewan, was entirely blue. Like every region voted for conservatives. So we have no representation in the federal government. And we recently had a provincial election, which voted quite large numbers in to get a Saskatchewan, or like a conservative in power again for the fourth term in a row.
Has it been that way for a long time? Like, has there been a flip?
Yeah, we were an NDP stronghold province for 10 years or something. And then before that, conservatives almost bankrupted our province. And then the NDP, the Democratic Party, had to I guess curb some spending and cut corners here and there to try and make things work. And they were getting us close to out of debt. And then the oil boom came and everybody thought, oh, well, it's time to change. Let's vote for a pro-oil party. And that's that's how we got our Saskatchewan party, our conservatives in power in the province.
So is your show about kind of trying to work on some local politics?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about
just regional.
Yeah, regional. Like, we want to be Saskatchewan based. Saskatchewan only has 1 million people, or just over 1 million people in the whole province. My city is, I think, just over.
How much territory is that?
Oh, it's big. Yeah.
I was thinking, I live in Atlanta, and I think we have I don't know, a lot of million.
Yeah.
7 million? I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah, we got lots of space here. Yeah.
That's good though. Could be a narco-communist dream, except for I hope it hockey and snow.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle here though. We do. I mean, I just discovered this. I got a link shared to a friend of mine put me into this group. We have a communist party in Saskatchewan.
Wow.
We aren't, I mean, they don't have official party status, but it's just a relatively new thing, but I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on.
Well, it's cool that there is. I mean, at least there are more options out there. So before, I mean, dang, this time zoomed past.
Yeah.
With the usual. So I usually ask, well, it's been a while, so I will see if you have one off the cuff. If not, we'll go a little different direction. But do you have a joke to share? And if you're not a joke kind of person, that's fine.
I do not have a joke to share.
You can tell maybe something that's like either it's like some kind of skill or hobby that you have, maybe people don't know about from your podcasting, or maybe that's all you do. But
a skill or a
hobby, something
hobby.
else that you're into in your free time,
other than podcasts. No, I got nothing. I got nothing.
Really, you're super podcast, huh?
Yeah. That's when I'm not doing podcasting, I'm listening to podcasts. I don't even watch TV that much anymore.
Yeah, I do. I do find myself listening to a lot. It's like when I wasn't finding people to do for shows, I was like, God, I was just zoom, and then lots of YouTube type shows. But okay, so if you're in podcasting, you'd podcast more. So speaking of podcasts, where can people find you online now that you keep changing your shows?
Yeah, well, my solo show, actually, I didn't even mention Skeptarchy. My solo show, my interview show is The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist. It's on anchor.fm/skeptical leftist. I also do a show called Skeptarchy with Kevin Watson, Del on Earth, and Eric Standing. And we do basically the same thing as any panel show. We break down various topics. We talk about current events, and it's all from a progressive left-wing skeptical perspective, because that's what I have to bring to the table. So and then
which
that's on skeptarchy.com is that website. And if anybody cares about Saskatchewan politics, you can find that at anchor.fm/from many people's strength. And because I'm an addict, I also do a show with my partner called The Feminist Family. So we do that at anchor.fm/the feminist family.
So just 4. Nice.
Yeah, just 4.
One more and you get a free sandwich or something.
Oh, geez, I better do that then.
Yeah, just 1 takes a lot out of me. Well, thanks, Cory, for being back on. I'll definitely have to get you back on more often than whatever it was, 100 and some episodes. Actually, no, it's only like 90. Come on. It's 2 years, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What changes in 2 years? Not much.
Nah, the world's the same.
Well, thanks for being on, Cory.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Excellent.